There's a kind of tired that has nothing to do with how much you slept last night. You could rest for 10 hours, 12 hours, and still wake up feeling like something heavy is pressing down on your chest. Still feel like the day ahead is asking for more than you have to give. Still wonder, in that quiet moment before you open your eyes, why existence itself seems to require so much effort from you when other people seem to move through their days so much more easily. If you know this feeling, I want you to understand something right from the beginning. You are not alone, and you are not weak. This exhaustion you carry, this bone-deep weariness that sleep doesn't seem to touch, it's not a personal failing. It's not evidence that you're doing life wrong. It's not a sign that something is fundamentally broken inside you that other people have somehow figured out how to fix. This feeling has a name, it has a history, and it has been carried by some of the wisest human beings who ever lived. The ancient Stoics knew this tiredness. 2,000 years ago, in ancient Rome, the most powerful man in the world wrestled with this exact same heaviness. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and he ruled an empire that stretched across 3 continents. He commanded the greatest military force on earth. He had access to every comfort, every luxury, every advantage that existence could offer a human being in the ancient world. Philosophers sought his counsel. Nations trembled at his word. And in his private journal, the one he never intended anyone to read, he wrote about mornings when he didn't want to get out of bed, when the weight of another day felt like too much to bear, when consciousness itself seemed like an unfair demand that the universe was making on his tired soul. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being." Think about that for a moment. Let it sink in. The Emperor of Rome had to give himself a pep talk just to face the day. The philosopher king, trained in wisdom since childhood, struggled with the weight of simply being alive. The man who had literally everything the ancient world could offer still felt the pull of the covers, the resistance to consciousness, the heaviness of one more day stretching out before him. Tonight, I want to sit with you in this exhaustion, not to fix it, because some things can't be fixed, only understood and carried with more wisdom, not to motivate you toward greater productivity, because that's probably the last thing you need to hear right now, but simply to explore what this tiredness actually is, where it comes from, and what the ancient Stoics discovered about carrying weight without being crushed by it. Let your body settle wherever you are. Let your breath slow down naturally. There's nothing you need to do right now except receive these words. The Stoics have wisdom for the exhausted. They knew this path. They walked it before you. And perhaps in their company, you'll find a kind of rest that goes deeper than sleep. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome during one of the most difficult periods in its long history. He spent years on military campaigns along the cold Danube frontier, far from the comforts of Rome, watching friends and soldiers die in brutal battles against Germanic tribes who threatened the empire's borders. He navigated a devastating plague that swept through the empire, killing millions of people, including some of those closest to him. He dealt with betrayal from people he trusted deeply, rebellion from a general he had considered a friend, and the constant grinding weight of decisions that meant life or death for countless people he would never meet. And through all of it, in the quiet moments between crises, he wrote. Late at night in his military tent, by the flickering light of oil lamps, early in the morning before the day's demands began their assault, he filled pages with what we now call the Meditations. Though he never called them that, never intended them for publication, never imagined that 2,000 years later people would still be reading his private thoughts. They were simply his notes to himself, reminders, arguments, the internal conversation of a man trying to figure out how to keep going when going felt impossible. What we find in those pages is not the voice of a superhuman sage who had transcended ordinary human struggles through some special enlightenment. What we find is a man who was tired, genuinely, deeply tired. A man who had to convince himself, again and again, line after line, page after page, that existence was worth the effort it demanded of him. He wrote about not wanting to leave the warmth of his bed in the morning, about the temptation to stay hidden from the world and its endless demands, about the heaviness of facing another day of responsibilities he hadn't chosen and couldn't escape. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? Or is this what I was created for, to huddle under the blankets and stay warm? Notice something crucial here. He had to tell himself these things. The wisdom didn't come automatically. The motivation to face the day wasn't simply there waiting for him when he woke up. He had to argue himself into engagement with life, morning after morning, through all those years of war and plague and empire. The most powerful man in the world, lying in bed, having to convince himself to get up. This matters because we often believe that truly wise people, truly strong people, don't feel what we feel. We imagine that philosophers have figured something out that makes existence light and easy for them. That if we just had the right mindset, the right habits, the right understanding, we wouldn't struggle with the simple act of being alive. But here is Marcus Aurelius, emperor, philosopher, the man who had everything. And he struggled too. The struggle is not a sign that something is wrong with you. The struggle is part of being human, even for emperors, even for philosophers. What exactly is this exhaustion that we're talking about? It's important to name it clearly, because when something has a name, it becomes easier to carry. When you understand what you're dealing with, it loses some of its power to overwhelm you. This tiredness, this bone-deep weariness that seems disconnected from how much you've actually slept, is what we might call existential exhaustion. It's the fatigue that comes not from physical exertion, not from lack of rest, but from the sheer weight of being conscious, of being alive, of having to exist day after day in a world that constantly demands your participation, your attention, your energy, your engagement. Think about what it actually takes to get through a single ordinary day. You wake up. Immediately, before you've even left your bed, you have to manage your body. The hunger that needs feeding, the stiffness that needs stretching, the bladder that needs emptying, the basic biological maintenance that never stops requiring your attention. Then you have to make decisions. What to eat, what to wear, how to spend your limited hours. You have to interact with other people, each of whom has their own needs, their own expectations, their own demands on your energy and attention. You have to navigate a world full of information coming at you from every direction. News, notifications, messages, emails, social media, all of it demanding something from you. You have to process emotions, your own complicated feelings and the emotions of others around you. You have to solve problems that arise unexpectedly, handle setbacks that weren't part of your plan, adjust to circumstances you didn't choose and can't control. You have to present an acceptable version of yourself to the world, manage how others perceive you, perform the role of a functional person in a society that has very specific ideas about what functional looks like. And then you sleep. And tomorrow you do it all again. And the day after that. And the day after that. Forever, stretching out into an uncertain future. Until you don't. For many people, this process just happens automatically. They move through life without noticing the machinery of existence grinding away beneath the surface. The demands become automatic. The effort becomes invisible. They're carried along by routine and distraction, and they don't think too much about the underlying structure of what it means to be alive. But some people become acutely aware of this machinery. They notice every gear turning, every effort required, every choice that has to be made. They feel the weight of consciousness in a way that others seem to avoid or ignore. And that awareness is exhausting in a way that sleep cannot touch. The Stoics understood this burden. They talked about the weight of reason, the capacity that separates us from animals. Our ability to think about ourselves, to contemplate our existence, to understand our mortality, to question the meaning of everything we do. This awareness is what makes us human, but it's also what makes being human so heavy. If you felt that, the weight of consciousness, the heaviness of being aware, you're not ungrateful, you're not pessimistic. You're awake. And being truly awake is genuinely exhausting. Before we go any further tonight, I need to say something important. Something that might be difficult to hear because you've probably been telling yourself the opposite for a long time. If you feel this exhaustion, if the simple act of being alive requires more effort than it seems to require of other people around you, it does not mean you are weak. It often means exactly the opposite. The people who feel the weight of existence most heavily are frequently the ones who have been carrying the most. The ones who show up even when they desperately don't want to. The ones who keep going when everything inside them is screaming to stop. The ones who fulfill their responsibilities, meet their obligations, take care of others, hold families and workplaces and friendships together, all while running on empty, all while feeling like they're made of lead, all while wondering how much longer they can possibly keep this up before something breaks. That's not weakness. That's strength in its most genuine, most quiet, most unrecognized form. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who was born into slavery and lived with the permanent physical disability from abuse he suffered in his youth, taught that we cannot control what happens to us, only how we respond to what happens. And some people have had to respond to so much, have had to keep responding day after day, year after year, without adequate rest, without recognition, without anyone seeing the invisible labor they perform just to stay present in their own lives, just to keep functioning, just to not fall apart. If that's you, if you've been carrying weight that no one else can see or understand, I want you to hear this clearly. Your exhaustion makes complete sense. It's not a character flaw. It's not a failure of willpower or discipline. It's not evidence that you're somehow less capable than other people who seem to handle life more easily. It's the natural, logical, inevitable result of bearing more than any person should have to bear for as long as you've been bearing it, of giving more than you're receiving, of outputting energy day after day without adequate rest or replenishment. The Stoics didn't teach that we should feel nothing. That's a common misconception about their philosophy. They didn't believe in suppressing emotions or pretending that difficulty doesn't exist or wearing a mask of invulnerability. What they taught was understanding, meeting our feelings with wisdom rather than harsh judgment, accepting what we experience without adding unnecessary suffering through relentless self-criticism. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Right now, I want you to revoke one particular estimate. The estimate that your tiredness means something is wrong with you. The estimate that you should be able to handle existence more easily. The estimate that your exhaustion is a failure rather than evidence that you've been working incredibly hard at the difficult job of being alive. You're tired because you've been carrying weight, because you've been showing up when you wanted to hide, because you've been doing the difficult, invisible work of existence in a world that rarely acknowledges how difficult that work actually is. That's not weakness, that's humanity. And the Stoics never asked us to be anything more than human. If any of this is resonating with you, if these words are meeting you somewhere real and true, somewhere that you don't often let yourself acknowledge or talk about, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Not for algorithms, not for numbers, not for any reason that benefits me more than it benefits you, but for a simple, practical purpose, so that this ancient wisdom keeps finding its way to you when you need it, so that on nights when the weight feels heavy and you need to be reminded that you're not alone in carrying it, these words will be here waiting for you. The Stoics believed that philosophy is not something you learn once and then possess forever like a trophy on a shelf. It's something you practice, something you return to again and again, especially when life gets heavy. They compared it to medicine. You don't take it once and expect to be healthy for the rest of your life. You take it when you're sick, and you keep it close by so it's available when you need it again. Subscribing is a small way of keeping this medicine close, of making sure these ancient teachings show up in your life not just tonight, but on other nights when the weight feels heavy and you need to be reminded of what the Stoics knew about carrying it. Now, let's continue our exploration together. Let your body settle deeper into whatever surface is supporting you right now. Feel the weight of your limbs against the bed, the couch, the floor, wherever you're resting. Notice how something solid is holding you up, taking your weight so you don't have to. Let your breath slow down to whatever pace feels natural. There's nowhere you need to be except here. Nothing you need to do except receive. Nothing to fix or solve or figure out tonight. We're going to keep exploring this exhaustion together, where it comes from, what the Stoics understood about it, and how they found ways to carry weight without being destroyed by it. We're going to sit with some difficult truths and some comforting ones. We're going to let ancient wisdom speak to modern tiredness. But I want to be clear about something. There's no test at the end of this. No action items, no self-improvement homework. The Stoics valued rest as much as they valued effort. They understood that wisdom isn't just about knowing how to work. It's about knowing when and how to stop. Tonight, you don't have to do anything with what you hear. You don't have to remember it, apply it, or change anything about your life. You can simply let these words wash over you like warm water, taking what helps and letting the rest flow past without grasping at it. The night is here. The day, with all its demands, is done. And for now, that's enough. You are exactly where you need to be. Let's go deeper together. Existential exhaustion, this deep weariness we've been naming together, rarely comes from one single cause. It accumulates, layer by layer, day by day, month by month, year by year, until one morning you wake up and realize you've been carrying something enormous without quite understanding how it got so heavy, or when exactly it started weighing you down this much. Let's explore some of the places this weight comes from. Not to overwhelm you with more things to think about, but to help you understand what you're dealing with. Because naming the source of exhaustion is often the first step toward finding rest from it. Sometimes the heaviness comes from years of accumulated responsibility. You've been the one others depend on for so long you can't remember what it was like before. The parent holding the family together through sheer force of will. The employee who never says no because saying no might mean letting someone down. The friend who's always available when others need support. The partner who manages the emotional labor of the relationship because someone has to. The person who somehow became the strong one and now can't remember how to be anything else. Can't remember if you were ever anything else. Years of being needed without anyone thinking to ask what you need. Years of giving without receiving anywhere close to an equal measure. Years of holding space for others without anyone holding space for you. That kind of sustained output without adequate input depletes something essential that sleep alone cannot restore. Sometimes the heaviness comes from accumulated disappointment. Not one dramatic loss that you can point to and say, this is when things got hard, but the slow accumulation of hopes that didn't materialize. Dreams that quietly died without fanfare or funeral. Versions of your future self that will never arrive now. Expectations about how life should have gone, held up against how it actually went. Each individual disappointment might have been manageable on its own, but together, over time, compounding in the dark, they form a weight, a kind of quiet grief for all the lives you didn't get to live, all the versions of happiness that remained just out of reach no matter how hard you tried to grasp them. Sometimes the heaviness comes from sensitivity, from feeling things deeply in a world that often rewards numbness and punishes those who can't achieve it, from caring about suffering, your own and others, that most people manage to ignore or compartmentalize or scroll past, from being awake to pain, injustice, cruelty, loss, in a way that makes it difficult to just carry on as if everything is fine when clearly everything is not fine. The Stoics wrote about this. Marcus Aurelius said, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." But escaping the ranks of the insane means seeing what the majority chooses to ignore, and seeing clearly, while valuable, while necessary, while a kind of moral courage, is also exhausting in ways that those who don't see can never understand. Wherever your exhaustion comes from, whether you can name its source clearly or whether it remains mysterious even to you, it's valid, it's real. You didn't make it up. The Stoics taught something radical about suffering, something that can fundamentally change your relationship with the exhaustion you carry if you let it sink in deeply enough. They taught that much of our pain comes not from what happens to us, but from our resistance to what happens, from the gap between how things are and how we think they should be, from fighting against reality instead of accepting it, from spending our limited energy pushing against things that will not move instead of learning to flow around them. Now, this doesn't mean we should be passive in the face of injustice or difficulty. It doesn't mean we shouldn't try to change things that can and should be changed. The Stoics were people of action. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and fought wars. Seneca was a statesman who navigated deadly political intrigues. Epictetus built a school of philosophy that influenced generations. These were not passive people. But they understood something crucial. There are things within our control and things outside our control. And wisdom lies in knowing the difference and responding accordingly to each. Epictetus put it with characteristic simplicity. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. When it comes to existential exhaustion, here's what this means in practical terms. You cannot simply decide not to be tired. You cannot will yourself into having more energy than you have. You cannot force yourself to feel light when something heavy has settled into your bones and refuses to leave. That's outside your control right now, no matter how much you wish it weren't. But what is inside your control is how you relate to your tiredness. Whether you add to the burden by judging yourself harshly for having it. Whether you spend precious energy fighting against it, resisting it, wishing it away, telling yourself you shouldn't feel this way. Or whether you accept it as what is in this moment without making it worse through resistance and self-criticism. Epictetus also said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well." What if instead of fighting your exhaustion, you simply accepted it? Not as permanent, not as who you fundamentally are, not as giving up on ever feeling better or lighter. but simply as what is true right now in this present moment. I am tired. This is heavy. And for now, that's okay. That's allowed. That's where I am. Something shifts when we stop fighting. The exhaustion doesn't magically disappear. Acceptance isn't a magic spell that makes difficulty vanish. But it becomes less of a battle. We stop spending our limited energy on resistance and reclaim that energy for simply being, simply existing, simply resting. The Stoics understood that acceptance is not defeat. It's wisdom. It's the recognition that some things cannot be changed through force of will, and that fighting against them only adds suffering to suffering, exhaustion to exhaustion. Tonight, I'm inviting you to accept the tiredness, not to love it, but to stop fighting it, to let it be what it is. Acceptance is the ground from which real rest becomes possible. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers who ever lived, wrote extensively about how we spend our time. He's famous for warning against busyness, against filling every moment with activity and calling it a life, against reaching the end of our days having never really lived because we were always too busy preparing to live, always postponing rest and joy and presence until some future moment that never arrives. But Seneca also deeply understood the necessity of rest, not as laziness or moral weakness, not as something to be ashamed of or hidden, but as absolutely essential to a life well lived. He wrote, "The mind must be given relaxation. It will rise improved and sharper after a good break. Just as rich fields must not be forced, for their fertility will be quickly exhausted if they are never given a rest. So constant labor will break the vigor of the mind." This might surprise people who think Stoicism is all about grinding through difficulty, about pushing through pain without complaint, about never stopping, never resting, never admitting that you need a break. But that's not what the ancient Stoics actually taught, not even close. They believed in rhythm, in the natural alternation between effort and recovery. They observed that nature itself operates this way. Day follows night, summer follows winter, activity follows rest, growth follows periods of apparent dormancy. The tide goes out so it can come back in. The field lies fallow so it can produce abundant crops next season. Seneca compared the mind to a bow that must be unstrung regularly or it loses its power, to a field that must sometimes lie fallow or it stops producing, to a well that must be allowed time to refill or it runs completely dry. He wrote, "It is not good for the mind to be always at work. Even leisure must have its due place, for the mind cannot be kept constantly at full stretch." Rest is not the opposite of productivity. Rest is what makes sustainable productivity possible in the first place. Modern life has largely forgotten this ancient wisdom. We live in a culture that celebrates constant activity and views rest with suspicion. That treats sleep as a necessary evil to be minimized and leisure as laziness to be overcome. That measures human worth primarily by output, productivity, visible achievement, and sees rest as a failure to maximize potential. But the Stoics knew better. They had figured this out 2,000 years ago. They understood that human beings are not machines that can run indefinitely without maintenance, that we need space, silence, stillness, time away from demands. That restoration is not optional for a life well lived, it's absolutely necessary. That caring for yourself is not selfishness, but stewardship of the only body and mind you have to navigate existence with. Seneca also wrote, "We should take wandering outdoor walks so that the mind might be nourished and refreshed by the open air and deep breathing." He actively prescribed leisure. He recommended walks in nature. He insisted on stepping back from work regularly to remember that life is more than tasks, obligations, and achievements. This wasn't weakness. This was one of history's greatest philosophers telling us what he had learned through decades of study and practice. Rest is wisdom. Recovery is virtue. Pause is part of the good life, not an obstacle to it. Tonight, you're not escaping your responsibilities by resting. You're following ancient wisdom. You're honoring your humanity, and the Stoics would wholeheartedly approve. There's a kind of work that nobody ever sees. It's the work of managing yourself from the inside, regulating your emotions so they don't overwhelm you or spill out onto others inappropriately, processing the endless stream of experiences that flow through your consciousness, making sense of a world that often refuses to make sense no matter how hard you try, maintaining the appearance of okayness so that the systems you're part of can keep functioning around you without disruption. This invisible labor is genuinely exhausting. And because it's invisible, because no one can see you doing it, it rarely gets acknowledged. You don't get credit for it. You don't get time off from it. You don't get recognition or praise or even understanding from people who have no idea how much effort you're expending just to appear normal. From the outside, it might look like you're just existing, just going about your day like everyone else, just handling normal life the way normal people handle normal life. But inside, there's constant effort that no one can perceive. The effort of holding difficult emotions without being completely overwhelmed by them. The effort of showing up to work, to relationships, to life when every part of you wanted to stay hidden under the covers. The effort of being kind to others when you're running on empty and have almost nothing left to give. The effort of making decisions when your mind is foggy with fatigue and decision-making feels like pushing through mud. The effort of caring about things you're not even sure you care about anymore because you're supposed to care. Because caring is what functional people do. The effort of being a person. Day after day, year after year, with no vacation from yourself. The Stoics understood that the inner life requires real work. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations because philosophy came easily to him and he wanted to show off his insights. He wrote them because he was struggling, because maintaining his inner peace required daily effort, daily reminders, daily practice of returning to wisdom when his mind wanted to drift toward despair or resentment or exhaustion. He wrote to himself constantly, filling page after page. Remember this truth. Don't forget that principle. Return to this practice. Let go of that illusion. The pages of his journal are filled with a man coaching himself through the difficulty of being alive, talking himself off ledges, reminding himself of things he kept forgetting, working hard at the invisible labor of maintaining a self. If Marcus Aurelius, with all his philosophical training, all his resources, all his supposed wisdom, required that much effort just to maintain his inner equilibrium, what does that tell us about the rest of us? It tells us that the inner work is genuinely hard, that managing yourself is a real job, probably the hardest job there is and one that never ends. That the exhaustion you feel from this invisible labor is not imaginary, not exaggerated, not a sign that you're weaker than other people who seem to handle it more easily. They're doing the same work. They're just not talking about it either. If you've been doing this work, the work of holding yourself together, of managing more than anyone realizes, of carrying weight that doesn't show on the outside, that work counts. It's real. It's difficult. It's exhausting. And it makes complete sense that you're tired. Part of what makes existence so exhausting is the constant performance it requires. We don't just live our lives in some pure, authentic way. We have to appear to be living them well. We have to meet expectations, our own and others. We have to show up as acceptable versions of ourselves, even when we feel like nothing inside. We have to perform functionality, competence, wellness, engagement with life, whether or not those performances reflect anything true about our inner state. And this performance never ends. There's no backstage in life where you can take off the costume and just be. At work, you perform professionalism and enthusiasm even when you feel neither. In relationships, you perform availability and engagement even when you're running on empty. On social media, you perform a curated life that bears little resemblance to your actual experience. With family, you perform whatever role has been assigned to you, the responsible one, the successful one, the one who has it together, the one everyone can count on. With strangers, you perform basic social acceptability, smiling when you're supposed to smile, responding when spoken to, appearing normal when normal is the last thing you feel. The gap between how you appear and how you actually feel can become enormous over time. And crossing that gap, maintaining that performance day after day, year after year, takes an enormous amount of energy that no one ever sees you spending because the whole point of the performance is to make it look effortless. The Stoics lived in a world of performance too. Roman society was intensely hierarchical and status-conscious, full of expectations and obligations and social rituals that had to be observed. Marcus Aurelius had to perform being emperor, confident, decisive, wise, unshakable, even when inside he felt tired and uncertain and overwhelmed. Seneca had to perform being a statesman even when he longed for nothing more than quiet contemplation and rest. But the Stoics also valued authenticity beneath the necessary performance. They believed in the examined life, in knowing your true self beneath all the roles and masks society requires you to wear, in cultivating an internal reality that remains stable and honest, regardless of what external performance might be demanded of you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." There's a radical simplicity in that statement. Stop performing goodness for others and actually cultivate goodness within yourself. Stop appearing to have it together and actually attend to what's happening inside. Stop living for how things look and start living for how things actually are. Tonight, you don't have to perform anything for anyone. No one is watching. No one is evaluating. No one needs you to appear any particular way. There are no expectations to meet right now, no roles to play, no gaps to bridge between your inner truth and your outer presentation. You can just be. Tired if you're tired. Confused if you're confused. Empty if you're empty. Sad if you're sad. Whatever is actually true for you right now, it's allowed here, it's welcome here. Just for tonight, let the performance rest. Let the mask come off. Let yourself be whoever you actually are, without apology, without explanation, without effort to appear as anything other than exactly what you are in this moment. There's a particular kind of strength that tired people possess. Most of the world never recognizes it because it doesn't look like what we usually call strength. It doesn't come with trophies or applause or recognition. It happens in private, in silence, completely unseen. It's not the strength of dramatic achievement or visible conquest. Not the strength of crossing finish lines with your arms raised in victory. Not the kind of strength that gets celebrated in movies or held up as an example for others to follow. It's the strength of continuing. Of getting up again when you desperately didn't want to. Of showing up when every part of you wanted to stay hidden away from the world and its demands. Of doing what needed to be done when you had absolutely nothing left in you to do it with. Of carrying weight that would have crushed other people, day after day, week after week, year after year, without recognition, without applause, without anyone having any idea what it's costing you to keep going. That's real strength, the quiet kind. The invisible kind. The kind that no one sees or celebrates, but that matters more than all the visible victories put together. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like a rocky promontory against which the restless surf continually pounds. It stands fast while the churning sea is lulled to sleep at its feet." You have been that promontory, haven't you? The waves have been crashing against you. The storms have been relentless. The water has been trying to wear you down, erode you, wash you away, day after day after day. And you're still standing, still here, still holding on. That's not nothing. That's everything. The Stoics admired endurance above almost all other virtues, not because they glorified suffering, they absolutely did not, but because they recognized that the capacity to endure reveals something profound about human nature, something beautiful and strong and worth honoring. We are stronger than we know, more resilient than we feel, capable of bearing weights that should be impossible, that would be impossible for anyone else, that we ourselves wouldn't have believed we could bear until we had no choice but to bear them. If you're exhausted right now, it might be because you've been strong for a very long time. Because you've been the promontory while waves crashed against you relentlessly. Because you've been enduring things that would have broken lesser people. And you're still here, still breathing, still listening to these words. But here's what the Stoics also understood. Strength without rest eventually breaks. The promontory stands, but even rock wears down over centuries of pounding surf. Even the strongest stone needs periods when the sea is calm. Marcus Aurelius also wrote about the importance of retreat, of withdrawal, of finding moments of stillness within the storm. He said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Tonight is calm sea. Tonight, you can stop standing so firmly against the waves. The storm will return. Storms always do. But storms also always pass. And right now, in this moment, you don't have to be strong. You can just be tired. You can just be human, and you can rest in the knowledge that your strength is real, even when, especially when, you don't feel it. Take a moment right now to consider what you've already survived. Not just the obvious things, though you've probably survived some of those too. The big losses, the dramatic crises, the moments when your world turned upside down, but also the accumulation of all the ordinary days, all the small challenges you've faced and somehow gotten through, all the times you wanted to give up, wanted to quit, wanted to stop, and didn't. All the mornings you didn't want to get out of bed, when every cell in your body was telling you to stay hidden, and you got up anyway. Every difficult conversation you had when you wanted desperately to avoid it. Every responsibility you met when you had nothing left to give. Every time you kept going when stopping seemed like the only sane option available to you. Every night you went to bed exhausted beyond words, and then woke up and did it all over again. That's thousands of small victories, thousands of moments when you could have collapsed but didn't. Thousands of choices to continue when continuing felt absolutely impossible. Epictetus taught that difficulties are opportunities for practicing virtue, that every challenge is a chance to build patience, courage, resilience, wisdom. He said, "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are." But I think there's something even simpler and more important than that. Sometimes survival itself is the achievement, full stop. You don't always have to grow from hardship. You don't always have to find the lesson or extract the meaning or emerge from difficulty as a better, stronger, wiser version of yourself. You don't have to transform your suffering into something beautiful or inspiring or useful to others. Sometimes just getting through is enough. Sometimes the victory is simply, "I'm still here. I made it. I survived another day." The Stoics admired this kind of courage deeply. The quiet courage of endurance, of showing up day after day without recognition or reward, of carrying weight without complaint, of continuing when there's no glory in continuing, no medal at the finish line, nothing but the simple, stubborn fact of not having stopped. Seneca wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And if you're in one of those times right now, if just being alive, just getting through each day feels like it requires all the courage you possess, then you are being courageous. Right now, in this very moment, simply by still being here. Simply by not having given up. Look at what you've already survived, all of it. The accumulation of all those days, all those challenges, all those moments when you weren't sure you'd make it through. You made it through all of that, every single bit of it. And you're still here. That proves something important about you, something you should never forget. You are stronger than you know, stronger than you feel, stronger than you give yourself credit for. And that strength is real, especially when you don't feel it. Here's something the Stoics understood about human nature that our modern culture often forgets or ignores. The people who seem most fine on the outside are frequently the ones carrying the heaviest loads on the inside. The person who never complains, who never asks for help, who never admits to struggling. The one who's always reliable, always capable, always there when others need them. The one everyone leans on because they seem so steady, so solid, so unshakable. The high achiever, the rock of the family, the one who has it all together. Often, underneath that calm exterior, they're exhausted. They've just gotten very good at hiding it, at performing strength so convincingly that no one thinks to ask if they're okay, at maintaining a facade that protects them from questions they don't know how to answer and concern they don't know how to receive. Marcus Aurelius was exactly this kind of person. To the outside world, he was the steady emperor, the philosopher king who handled every crisis with wisdom and grace, who maintained an empire through plague and war and rebellion without ever seeming to crack, who always knew what to do, always made the right decision, always appeared calm and in control. But in his private journal, the one he never intended for anyone else to read, he told a very different story. He was tired. He struggled constantly. He had to remind himself over and over again why any of it mattered, why he should keep going, why he shouldn't just stay in bed and let the world figure itself out without him. The public Marcus Aurelius and the private Marcus Aurelius were two very different people. The first seemed invincible. The second was just a man trying desperately to get through. If you're someone who seems fine, if you're the one others depend on, the reliable one, the strong one, the one who holds everything together, I want you to hear something important tonight. Your exhaustion is just as valid as anyone else's. More valid, perhaps, because you've been carrying it alone, without support, without acknowledgement, without anyone even knowing it exists. Being capable doesn't mean you're not struggling. Functioning well doesn't mean you're not depleted underneath the functioning. Having it together on the outside doesn't mean you're not falling apart on the inside. And the fact that no one sees your struggle doesn't make it less real. It might actually make it harder, because you're struggling completely alone, without support, without acknowledgement, without anyone asking if you're okay, because everyone assumes you always are. The Stoics valued honesty, with others when possible, but especially with yourself. They believed that self-deception is the enemy of wisdom, that you cannot address what you refuse to see or acknowledge. So be honest, at least with yourself, about what you're carrying. You don't have to tell the world. You don't have to change how you appear to others if that doesn't feel safe or possible. But admit it to yourself. in the privacy of this moment, in the safety of this night. You're tired, and that's allowed, even for the strong ones, especially for the strong ones. Perhaps what exhausted people need most, more than advice, more than solutions, more than strategies for having more energy, is something deceptively simple. Permission. Permission to be tired without being told to try harder or think more positively. Permission to rest without being called lazy or unambitious. Permission to exist at less than full capacity without being judged as failing at life. Permission to be human in a world that constantly demands we be superhuman. That we optimize and achieve and hustle and grind without ever stopping to ask whether any of that is actually making our lives better. The culture we live in rarely grants this permission. We're surrounded by messages about productivity and achievement, about hustling and grinding, about being your best self and maximizing your potential and never settling for less than everything. Rest is treated as something you earn, only after sufficient work, only for a limited time, only if you've proven through visible achievement that you deserve a break. But the Stoics understood 2,000 years ago that permission to rest is not something you earn. It's inherent in being human. It's built into the structure of what it means to be a living creature in a world with limited energy and unlimited demands. Seneca, despite being one of the busiest and most accomplished men in Rome, a senator, an advisor to the emperor, a writer of extraordinary output, insisted on the importance of rest and leisure. He didn't see it as a reward for work well done. He saw it as essential to life itself, as necessary as eating or sleeping or breathing. He wrote, "We are always complaining that our days are few, and acting as though there would be no end of them." Part of what he meant was this: we postpone rest as if we had infinite time. We tell ourselves we'll take a break later when things calm down, when we've accomplished enough, when we've earned the right to stop. But that later never comes because there's always more to do, always another goal to chase, always another way we could be more productive. And we spend our finite lives in constant exhaustion, always waiting for a permission that never arrives from a world that will never grant it. So tonight, I want to give you that permission myself. Right now, without conditions, without prerequisites, without requiring you to justify why you deserve it or prove that you've earned it. Permission to be tired. Permission to rest without having first earned it through sufficient suffering or productivity. Permission to stop performing for a while. Permission to let the world continue without your constant effort while you restore something essential that has been depleted. You don't need to justify this rest to anyone. You don't need to explain why you're tired or prove that your exhaustion is valid or severe enough to warrant a break. You don't need anyone else's approval or validation. This permission is already yours. It always was. It's built into your humanity. The Stoics knew that caring for yourself is not selfishness. It's wisdom. It's stewardship of the only body and mind you have. It's honoring the vessel that carries you through existence. Take the permission, it's yours. and rest. When you're exhausted at the level we've been describing tonight, when existence itself feels heavy, you might wonder what actually helps. Not what should help according to self-help books and productivity gurus. Not what people who don't understand your exhaustion tell you to do. Not the advice from well-meaning friends who've never felt the particular weight you carry. But what actually makes a difference when you're running on empty and have been for longer than you can remember. The Stoics have some wisdom here. Not quick fixes. They didn't believe in those, and neither should you. But genuine guidance from people who thought deeply about how to live when living is genuinely difficult. First, and most importantly, acceptance. We talked about this earlier, but it's worth returning to because it's so fundamental to everything else. Stop fighting the exhaustion. Stop spending your limited energy wishing it away or judging yourself for having it. Let it be what it is. The moment you stop resisting, something releases. Energy you were spending on that internal battle becomes available for simply being. Simply existing, simply resting. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you. Not happily necessarily, not with enthusiasm, just acceptance, just acknowledgement of what is, without the additional suffering of insisting it should be different." Second, presence. Marcus wrote constantly about staying anchored in the present moment, not projecting anxiously into an overwhelming future full of all the things you'll need to do, not ruminating on an exhausting past full of all the ways you've failed or fallen short. Just this moment, just this breath, just what's directly in front of you right now. When everything feels like too much, shrink your focus radically. Don't think about everything you need to do this week, this month, this year. Don't think about how tired you'll still be tomorrow or next week. Just be here, now, in this one small moment. That's manageable. That's survivable. That's enough. Third, small things. Seneca praised simple pleasures, a good conversation, a walk outside in fresh air, a moment of unexpected beauty. When you're depleted, you don't need grand solutions or dramatic life changes. You don't need to overhaul everything. You need small kindnesses, tiny moments of comfort. A glass of water when you're thirsty, a warm drink on a cold night, a few minutes of stillness, clean sheets, a moment without any demands at all. These things don't solve existential exhaustion. Nothing solves it quickly or easily, but they make the present moment slightly gentler. They give your depleted system a brief respite. They remind you that life can be soft sometimes, even when it mostly feels unbearably hard. Fourth, perspective. The Stoics practiced seeing their themes from a larger view. Your exhaustion is real and valid, but it's not the whole story of your existence. You've had better times before. You'll likely have them again. This heaviness, as permanent as it feels right now, is a season. And seasons, by their very nature, eventually change. Nothing stays the same forever. Not good fortune, not suffering, not exhaustion. This too shall pass. Not because that's a comforting platitude, but because that's literally how reality works. When everything feels heavy, Grand solutions are usually impossible. You can't overhaul your entire life when you barely have energy to get through today. You can't pursue dramatic transformation when existence itself is exhausting. You can't build some bright new future when you're not sure how you're going to survive the present moment you're in right now. So the focus has to be smaller. Much, much smaller than our achievement-obsessed culture usually recommends. The Stoics were intensely practical philosophers. They didn't deal in impossibilities or fantasies. They asked, what can actually be done right now, with what we actually have, where we actually are? Not where we wish we were, not with resources we don't possess, but here now with this. When you're exhausted, the answer is almost always small things. Things that don't require energy you don't have. Things that meet you where you actually are, not where you think you should be. A glass of water. When was the last time you drank anything? Your body is probably more dehydrated than you realize. A few deep breaths. Not a formal meditation practice, not 30 minutes of mindfulness. Just 3 or 4 conscious breaths where you actually notice the air moving in and out of your body. A moment outside if possible. Even standing at an open window counts. Fresh air moving across your face, a glimpse of sky. Food if you're hungry. Something simple that doesn't require preparation or decisions. Just fuel for a body that's been running on empty. Clean clothes, if your current ones feel heavy with yesterday's struggles. A warm shower or even just washing your face. Water on skin. A small physical reset. These things seem almost insultingly insignificant when you're carrying existential exhaustion. Drink some water? That's your advice? When I can barely find a reason to keep existing. But that's not what these small acts are. They're not solutions. They're not cures. They're not going to fix anything fundamental. They're tiny deposits of care into a depleted account. Small kindnesses to yourself when large kindnesses aren't possible. Seneca wrote about the importance of attending to simple physical needs, of not neglecting the body while pursuing wisdom for the mind, of remembering that we are embodied creatures who require basic physical care just to function. He also wrote about the compounding nature of small things, how tiny acts repeated over time accumulate into something larger. How a life is built not from dramatic transformations, but from daily, mundane, ordinary choices that compound slowly over months and years. One glass of water doesn't restore you, but it's slightly better than no water. And slightly better is the direction of healing. Slightly better, repeated enough times, eventually becomes significantly better. The Stoics understood incremental progress. They knew that the path to wisdom wasn't a single dramatic insight that changed everything forever. It was countless small practices repeated daily, building slowly over time into something that could bear the weight of existence. The same is true for rest, for restoration, for moving from complete exhaustion towards something slightly more sustainable. You don't have to fix everything tonight. You don't have to solve the fundamental problem of your tiredness before morning. You just have to be slightly kinder to yourself than you were yesterday. And then do that again tomorrow, and again the day after. Small acts of restoration, that's all. That's enough for now. If you're deeply exhausted right now, if existence has felt heavy for a long time, longer than you can remember, it might be genuinely hard to imagine feeling any other way. The heaviness can seem so permanent, so total, so completely woven into the fabric of who you are that you've forgotten there was ever anything else. It can feel like this is simply what life is for you now, what it has always been, and what it always will be, stretching forward into an unbearable future. But the Stoics understood something crucial about the nature of all things, including suffering. Everything changes. Everything. They meditated on impermanence constantly, not as a source of despair, but as a fundamental truth about reality that can actually bring comfort when properly understood. Nothing stays the same forever. Not joy, not suffering, not empires, not individual lives, not seasons of heaviness, not exhaustion. Everything that exists is in constant flux, constant motion, constant transformation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Time is a sort of river of passing events, and strong is its current. No sooner is a thing brought to sight than it is swept by and another takes its place, and this too will be swept away." Your current state, this exhaustion, this heaviness, this struggle to find reasons to keep going, is one thing in that river. It feels permanent because you're in the middle of it, because when you're drowning in something, it's impossible to see the shore. But it will be swept away eventually. Not immediately, perhaps, not on your preferred schedule, but it cannot remain forever because nothing remains forever. That's not how reality works. He also wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." The future is not here yet, and when it arrives, it will be different from what you expect. It always is. You'll have resources then that you can't imagine now. Rest you haven't received yet. Recovery that hasn't happened yet. Support you haven't encountered yet. Changes in circumstance, in brain chemistry, in the world around you, in yourself. Changes you cannot predict from where you're standing today. This isn't toxic positivity. I'm not asking you to pretend everything is fine or to imagine some magical transformation is just around the corner. I'm offering the Stoic recognition that everything changes, including this. Seneca wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." If you're in a time when living requires courage, when just being here, just continuing, just not giving up is taking everything you have, then you're being courageous right now. You're exercising the virtue of endurance, which the Stoics honored above almost all others. And courage isn't only for getting through hard times. It's also for staying open to the possibility that better times might come. For not closing the door completely on hope. For leaving room, even when you don't actively feel hopeful, for things to eventually change. The weight you carry now will not be the weight you carry forever. It may lift slowly, so gradually you barely notice until one day you realize things are lighter. It may lift suddenly, unexpectedly in ways you can't predict. It may lift partially, leaving you with something more bearable even if not perfectly light. But it will lift. It will change. Because that's what everything does eventually. Including this. One of the heaviest things about existential exhaustion is how utterly isolating it can feel. It can seem like you're the only one struggling with something this fundamental. Like everyone else around you has figured out how to exist without it requiring so much effort. Like there's something uniquely wrong with you that makes being alive harder for you than it is for other people. Like you're carrying something no one else would even understand if you tried to explain it. But you are not alone. Not even close to alone. The Stoics wrote about their struggles precisely because they knew others shared them. They weren't writing for themselves alone. They were writing for all the tired, struggling, overwhelmed humans who would come after them. Marcus Aurelius's meditations were private, never intended for publication, but they became one of the most widely read books in human history because the things he wrestled with in those pages are the things humans have always wrestled with, in every era, in every culture. The weight of responsibility when you didn't ask for responsibility. The challenge of staying present when your mind wants to flee. The effort required to be a decent person in a world that often seems to reward the opposite. The exhaustion of consciousness itself. The heaviness of carrying more than you can comfortably bear. These are not modern problems created by technology or capitalism or any particular feature of contemporary life. These are human problems. They have existed as long as humans have been conscious enough to reflect on their own existence. Across 2,000 years, across every culture and civilization, across every generation that has ever lived, there have been people lying awake at night wondering why existence requires so much effort, wondering if something is uniquely wrong with them, wondering how much longer they can keep carrying what they're carrying, feeling the exact weight that you feel right now. And many of them, most of them, got through. They found ways to carry the weight. They discovered rest they didn't know was possible. They experienced seasons of lightness they couldn't have imagined during their darkest seasons of heaviness. You're part of that lineage now. That long, long line of tired humans who kept going anyway. Who didn't always understand what they were experiencing or why, but who experienced it and survived it, and sometimes, eventually, found their way to something better on the other side. Seneca wrote letters to friends who were struggling with exactly the kinds of things you're struggling with. He shared his own difficulties openly, without shame. He created community around the hard work of being human because he knew that isolation makes everything heavier and connection makes even heavy things more bearable. You're not alone tonight. Right now, as you listen to these words, there are countless other people somewhere in the world also struggling with the weight of existence. Also wondering if they're the only ones. Also lying in the dark, tired in that deep way that sleep doesn't fix, feeling exactly what you're feeling. They're out there, you're here, and across all the distance, across all the apparent separation, you're sharing something profound. The human experience, the weight we all carry. The exhaustion that comes from being conscious in a world that asks so much of consciousness. You're not alone in this. You never were. And that matters more than you might think right now. I want to tell you what you deserve. You might not feel like you deserve anything good right now. That's common when you're this exhausted. The tiredness can spread to your sense of self-worth, making you feel like you haven't earned rest, haven't earned kindness, haven't earned the basic care and compassion that every human being needs simply by virtue of being human. But feelings lie sometimes, and this is one of those times. You deserve rest. Real rest, not the kind you have to earn through sufficient productivity first, not the kind that comes with guilt and anxiety about all the things you should be doing instead. Rest that is freely given, freely received, without strings or conditions or requirements. Rest that actually restores something that has been depleted for far too long. You deserve to be tired without being fixed. To say, "I'm exhausted," and have someone simply nod and understand without rushing to solve or improve or motivate you, without suggesting 10 things you should try, without implying that if you just tried harder or thought differently, you wouldn't feel this way. Just witness, just acceptance, just someone being with you in the tiredness without making it into a problem that needs immediate solving. You deserve gentleness. From others, yes, but especially, crucially, from yourself. The voice in your head that says you should be doing more, being more, handling things better, trying harder, not feeling this way, that voice is wrong. It's not helping you. It's not making you stronger or more resilient or more productive. It's just adding weight to a load that's already far too heavy. You deserve kindness from that voice. The same kindness you would offer without hesitation to a friend who was struggling. The same gentleness you would show to someone you love who was carrying more than they could bear. You deserve to take up space in the world. To exist without constantly justifying your existence through productivity or achievement. To be here in whatever condition you're in, without having to prove you've earned the right to be here. Without having to demonstrate your value through what you produce or accomplish. The Stoics believed in inherent human dignity, in the fundamental worth of every person, simply by virtue of being a conscious creature capable of reason and wisdom. You have that worth, not because of what you accomplish or produce or contribute, not because of how well you perform or how much you achieve. Because of what you are, a human being. That's enough. Seneca wrote, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood." You deserve to be understood, to have your exhaustion recognized as valid and real, to be seen as you actually are, not as you perform yourself to be. Tonight, receive what you deserve. Rest, gentleness, acceptance, understanding. These things are already yours by right of your humanity. They always were. I'm just reminding you to let yourself receive them. I want to say this directly, and I want you to hear it even if part of you doesn't believe it yet. You are enough. Not the version of you that does more, not the version that has it all together, not some imagined future self who finally figured everything out and no longer struggles with the weight of being alive. This version, right here, right now. The exhausted version who can barely get through the day. The struggling version who feels like a fraction of what you could be or should be. The tired version who wonders sometimes if any of this is worth the effort it requires. That version, this version, is enough. The Stoics believed in inherent human dignity that doesn't depend on external circumstances or achievements. They taught that every person has fundamental worth not because of what we do or produce or accomplish, but because of what we are. Conscious beings capable of reason. Creatures who can contemplate existence and choose virtue. Parts of a larger whole, connected to everything else that exists. That worth doesn't increase when you accomplish things and doesn't decrease when you struggle. It doesn't depend on your productivity or your success or your ability to function at peak capacity. It just is. It's yours simply because you exist. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Part of that way of thinking, maybe the most important part, is releasing the relentless idea that you need to be more than you are right now. That you need to earn your place in the world through constant effort. That your worth depends on productivity or achievement or never being tired. What if you're already enough? What if you've always been enough? What if the exhaustion you feel doesn't diminish your worth at all? It just reveals that you've been working incredibly hard at the difficult task of being human in a demanding world. Epictetus, who was born a slave, who lived with a permanent disability, who had every external reason to feel worthless, taught that our worth comes from within. That external circumstances don't determine our value. That a slave can be freer and more worthy than an emperor if his mind and character are free. If that's true, and the Stoics believed it absolutely, then your current exhaustion says nothing about your worth as a person. Nothing at all. You're not less valuable because you're tired. You're not less deserving of rest because you haven't accomplished enough first. You're not less enough because you're struggling. You are enough. Exactly as you are. Tonight and every night. Not because you've earned it through sufficient effort or achievement, because it was never something you needed to earn in the first place. You are a human being. That's enough. That's always been enough. The Stoics knew this. And now, perhaps you can begin to know it too. We've traveled through a lot of territory together tonight. We've named things that often go unnamed in the daylight hours. The tiredness that sleep doesn't seem to touch. The weight of consciousness itself. The invisible labor of simply being alive. The performance that existence constantly demands. The strength that tired people possess without ever recognizing it as strength. We've sat with the ancient Stoics, with Marcus Aurelius and his morning reluctance to face another day, with Seneca and his wisdom about the absolute necessity of rest, with Epictetus and his teachings on acceptance and what lies within our control, we've found, in their words written 2,000 years ago, recognition of something very modern: the difficulty of being human in a world that asks so much of your humanity. But now, it's time to let all of that settle, to stop reaching and grasping and thinking, to allow everything we've explored to sink down into the quieter parts of your mind, where it can rest and integrate without any effort from you. You don't have to hold on to anything you've heard tonight. You don't have to remember it for tomorrow. You don't have to make a plan or decide to change something or carry these ideas forward into some kind of productive action. You can simply release them. Let them go. Let them become part of you in whatever way they naturally want to, without forcing anything. The Stoics valued evening reflection, looking back on the day with honesty, learning what could be learned, and then releasing it completely so sleep could come unobstructed. Seneca wrote about this practice, examining what happened, what you did well, where you fell short, and then letting it all go so the mind could rest. You've done your reflection tonight. Now comes the release. Let the day go. Whatever happened in it, whatever you did or didn't do, whatever went well or badly, complete, done, released. Let the weight go. Set it down at the edge of sleep. You can pick it back up tomorrow if you need to, but you don't have to carry it through the night. Let everything that's been pressing on you take a break while you're unconscious. The world will keep spinning without your constant attention. Your problems will still be there in the morning if you need them. Nothing will fall apart because you rested. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." The present right now is rest. The present is your body against a soft surface. The present is breath moving in and out without any effort on your part. The present is the gentle darkness that asks nothing of you, expects nothing from you, demands nothing except that you receive it. Stay here, in the present. Let everything else, past and future, weight and worry, fade into the background where it belongs. There is only now, and now is for rest. The night is here, and it asks nothing of you. Think about that for a moment. After a full day of demands, of expectations and responsibilities and performances and efforts and decisions and interactions and all the 1,000 things that existence requires of you during the waking hours, the night arrives and asks for nothing at all. Darkness has a kindness to it that we rarely acknowledge or appreciate. It hides everything that clamors for your attention during the day. The tasks you haven't finished, the emails you haven't answered, the problems you haven't solved, the person you're supposed to be. In darkness, all of that fades into invisibility. You can't see it. It can't see you. There's just the quiet and the dark and the permission to stop. The Stoics had a deep respect for natural cycles. They saw wisdom and order in the patterns of nature, the way day reliably gives way to night, the way activity naturally gives way to rest, the way even the strongest and most productive things in nature require periods of dormancy and stillness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, Observe always that everything is the result of change, and get used to thinking that there is nothing nature loves so well as to change existing forms and to make new ones like them. Night changes us. Sleep transforms us in ways we don't fully understand and can't consciously control. We enter rest as one version of ourselves and emerge as another, slightly different, slightly restored, slightly renewed. The same burdens might be waiting, but we carry them with different arms. The Stoics trusted this process completely. They didn't try to defeat nature or override its rhythms or optimize their way out of the need for rest. They aligned themselves with it. They let night be night. They let sleep be sleep. They let the body and mind do what millions of years of evolution had designed them to do. Rest, repair, restore, renew. You can trust this process too. Your body knows how to sleep. It's been doing it your entire life without any instruction from you. Your mind knows how to release its grip on consciousness. You don't have to manage this process or optimize it or do it correctly according to some expert's recommendations. You just have to allow it to happen. You just have to stop preventing it. Let the night receive you now. Let it hold you while you're unconscious, while you're vulnerable, while you're not managing or controlling or directing anything at all. Let it do its quiet work of restoration in whatever mysterious ways that work happens. The same night that held Marcus Aurelius in his tent on the Danube frontier. The same darkness that received Seneca after long days of writing and statesmanship. The same rest that has held every tired human being throughout all of recorded history and long before. You're joining that company now, the vast community of the resting. The night is kind. Receive its kindness. Whatever happened today, whatever you did or didn't do, whatever went well or went badly, whatever you're proud of or regret, whatever weight you carried, let it be complete now. The day is done. It exists now only as memory, and memory cannot be changed no matter how much energy you spend trying to change it. No amount of replaying will alter a single moment of what has already passed into history. The Stoics practiced releasing the day as a deliberate spiritual discipline. Seneca wrote about his evening ritual. When the light has been removed from sight and my wife has fallen silent, I scan the whole of my day and retrace all my deeds and words. I hide nothing from myself. I pass over nothing. But notice what came after the examination. Sleep. Peaceful, untroubled sleep. He didn't lie awake, replaying and regretting and wishing things had gone differently. He looked honestly at the day, learned what he could from it, and then released it completely. He let the day become the past so that rest could come and so that tomorrow could arrive fresh. This is harder than it sounds. The mind wants to hold on to the day and worry at it like a dog with a bone. Wants to replay conversations and imagine better responses you could have given. Wants to revisit mistakes and rehearse what you should have done. Wants to grip tightly to what has passed, as if thinking about it enough could somehow alter it. But it can't. And the gripping only keeps you awake, steals the rest you need, adds exhaustion to exhaustion. So practice release. Consciously, deliberately choose to let go. Whatever happened today, complete. Whatever you said or didn't say, complete. Whatever went wrong, complete. Whatever you're worried about, set it down for the night. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." The same applies to the past. Don't let it disturb you now. You met it. You got through it. You're here, on the other side, still breathing, still present, still I. That's enough for tonight. Tomorrow will come. You'll meet it when it arrives with whatever you have. But tomorrow is not now. And the past is not now. Now is just this moment. Just this breath, just this darkness, just this permission to finally, fully stop. Let the day go, it's done. You're done. Rest. Here's something that deserves to be said more often than it ever is. Sometimes just surviving is the achievement. Not thriving, not growing, not transforming into a better version of yourself. Not finding meaning or purpose or silver linings. Not turning your struggles into lessons or your pain into wisdom you can share with others. Just getting through. Just making it to the end of another day. Just still being here. The world loves to celebrate dramatic achievements and inspiring transformations. Stories of people who overcame impossible odds and emerged victorious, who turned their suffering into fuel for greatness, who made something spectacular of their pain. Those stories are everywhere, and they can make you feel like if you're not doing that, if you're just surviving, just enduring, just hanging on, you're somehow failing. But you're not failing. Seneca wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And if you're in one of those times right now, if just being alive, just continuing, just not giving up is taking every bit of courage and strength you possess, then you are being courageous. Right now, in this moment, without fanfare or recognition, simply by still being here when being here is hard. The Stoics honored endurance as one of the highest human virtues. The capacity to bear what must be borne, to face difficulty without being completely destroyed by it, to continue when there's no glory in continuing, no reward at the end, nothing but the simple fact of not having stopped. That's not nothing. That's everything. If all you did today was survive, if you just made it through, that counts. That's an achievement worthy of recognition. That's enough. Marcus Aurelius kept going through plague and war and betrayal. Seneca kept going through exile and political danger. Epictetus kept going through slavery and disability. They didn't always feel triumphant or wise or strong. They just kept going. One day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one breath at a time. You're doing that right now. You survived today, you'll survive tonight, and tomorrow you'll have another chance to survive again. That's the achievement. That's enough. Now rest. Whatever is waiting for you tomorrow, the tasks, the obligations, the responsibilities, the problems, the weight you'll need to pick back up, it can wait. Right now, you don't have to solve anything, plan anything, prepare for anything, worry about anything. The future with all its demands is not here yet, and until it arrives, you have no obligation to it. Marcus Aurelius wrote constantly about the importance of staying anchored in the present moment. Not because the future doesn't matter, but because the present is the only place where life actually happens. The future is just imagination. The past is just memory. Only now is real. Only now is something you can actually experience. And right now, the only thing that's real is this rest, this darkness, this breath moving in and out of your body, this moment of being held by the night while the world spins on without requiring your attention or effort. Let it spin. The world managed before you were born. It will manage after you're gone. It can certainly manage for the handful of hours you spend sleeping and restoring yourself. The Stoics practiced something called the view from above, imagining yourself looking down at the earth from a great height, like a bird or a god. From up there, all the urgent things that consume our days look very small. All the tasks that seem so important shrink to specks. All the weight we carry seems insignificant against the vastness of everything that exists. Tonight, take that view. See how small your demands are compared to the cosmos. See how temporary today's problems are compared to the sweep of time. See how the things that feel so impossibly urgent will eventually fade, like everything fades, like everything passes. They can wait. The emails can wait. The decisions can wait. The problems can wait. The weight can wait. The world can wait. Seneca warned against living as if we had infinite time, but he also warned against living as if there were no time for rest, no space for restoration, no permission to stop. The wisdom is balance, knowing when to act and when to pause. Now is pause. Now is rest. Now is stop. Tomorrow is for action, if action is needed. But tomorrow is not now. Let the world wait. You've earned this rest simply by being human. Come back to your breath now. The Stoics used breath as an anchor to the present moment, a way to return from worry about the future or regret about the past. A simple physical reminder that right now, in this exact moment, you are alive. You are here. You exist. Feel the breath entering your body. Don't try to change it or control it or make it into any particular pattern. Don't breathe deeply because you think you should, or slowly because someone told you to. Just notice what's already happening without your direction. cool air coming in through your nose or mouth, the subtle expansion of your chest and belly, a brief pause at the top that you might not even notice. Then release, warm air flowing out, chest and belly gently falling. Another pause. And again. In, out, in, out. This rhythm that has sustained you every moment of your life without requiring any attention or effort from you at all. Your body knows how to breathe. It's been doing it continuously since the moment you were born. It will continue doing it while you sleep, while you dream, while you're completely unaware of anything at all. You don't have to manage this. You don't have to do it right. You can simply trust the process that has kept you alive this long. The Stoics saw breath as a connection to the larger order of things. The same air that Marcus Aurelius breathed 2,000 years ago. The same oxygen that sustains every living creature on this planet. Each breath connecting you to the vast web of life, the intricate systems that keep the world turning. In, out. Out. Let the breath carry you now, each exhale releasing a little more tension from your body, each inhale receiving a little more peace. No effort required, no technique to master, just the ancient rhythm that has been sustaining human beings since the first of our kind drew breath and will continue until the last. Rest in the breath. Let it be the only thing you notice. Let everything else fade away. Before you drift fully into sleep, I want to say this one more time, because it matters, because you need to hear it, because it's true even when you don't feel it. You are enough. Not the version of you that accomplishes more, not the version that struggles less, not some idealized future self who has finally figured everything out and floats through life with ease and grace. This version, here, now, tonight. The tired version, the struggling version, the version that isn't sure how much longer you can keep carrying what you've been carrying. That version is enough, has always been enough, will always be enough. The Stoics believed that every human being has inherent dignity that cannot be taken away by circumstances or failure or exhaustion. They taught that your worth as a person doesn't depend on what you produce or achieve or how well you function. It's yours simply because you exist. Simply because you're a conscious being capable of reason and choice and virtue. See? That worth doesn't diminish when you're tired, doesn't decrease when you struggle, doesn't depend on your productivity or your success, or your ability to meet the endless demands that existence places on you. You are enough because you are. That's it. That's the whole truth. So rest now, knowing that your worth is completely secure, that nothing you do or don't do while you sleep will change what you fundamentally are, that you will wake up tomorrow exactly as enough as you are right now, no matter what happens between now and then. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they all knew this truth. They taught it. They practiced it. They rested in it on their own difficult nights, in their own seasons of exhaustion and struggle. And now, it's yours. This truth, this permission, this rest. You are enough. You have always been enough. Let that knowing hold you as you fall asleep. Let it be the last thought before thoughts dissolve into dreams. You are enough. Imagine just for a moment that you don't have to hold yourself together anymore. All day, every day, you've been doing that work. Keeping the pieces in place, managing the weight, making sure nothing falls apart. Gripping tightly to everything that feels like it might slip away if you relax your vigilance for even a single moment. But right now, you can let go. Something else is holding you now. The bed beneath your body, taking your weight so you don't have to support yourself. The darkness around you, hiding everything that demands your attention during the day. The night itself, vast and quiet and ancient, asking nothing of you at all. Let yourself be held. The Stoics understood surrender not as weakness, but as the highest form of wisdom. They knew that some things are beyond our control, and that accepting this, releasing our grip on what we cannot hold, is the path to genuine peace. You cannot control what happens while you sleep. You cannot manage the world during the hours you're unconscious. You cannot keep everything together through sheer force of will when you're not even aware. So surrender. Let the night do what the night does. Let your body do what bodies do while sleeping. Repair, restore, process, heal, renew. Let everything that you've been holding so tightly be held instead by something larger than yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote about accepting what fate brings, not as passive resignation, but as alignment with reality. The night is fate right now. Sleep is what is. Rest is the reality of this moment. Align with it. Don't fight it. Let yourself be held by it. You've been carrying yourself for so long, holding everything in place, being the strong one, the responsible one, the one who keeps going no matter what. For these next hours, something else can carry you. The night can carry you. The darkness can carry you. The natural process of sleep can carry you to places you don't have to manage or control or understand. Let go completely now. Be held. You're safe here. Rest. Think deeper now. Away from thoughts, away from words, away from everything you've been carrying and managing and trying to understand. There's a place beneath all of that noise and effort. A quiet place. A still place where nothing is demanded and nothing needs to be done. The place where real rest lives. Not the surface rest of distraction or entertainment. Not the thin rest of mere physical stillness, but the deep rest that actually restores something essential that has been depleted. Go there now. Let your body grow heavier against whatever surface is supporting you. Feel the weight of your limbs sinking, releasing, surrendering to gravity. Feel your muscles letting go of tension they've been holding so long you forgot they were holding it. Let your jaw unclench. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let your hands open and soften. The Stoics spoke of an inner citadel, a place deep inside yourself that remains untouched by external circumstances. A place of peace that exists even when everything outside is chaos and difficulty. That place is available to you now, in the silence, in the stillness, in the depths beneath the choppy surface of your busy, worried mind. You don't have to do anything to get there. You just have to stop doing, stop thinking, stop managing, stop holding on. Let gravity do its work on your body. Let sleep do its work on your mind. Let the night do its work on your weary soul. Deeper now. Quieter. Stiller. The place you're going has no demands, no expectations, no weight to carry. It's the place humans have gone every night since the beginning of our species. The place of dreams and healing. The place where tired bodies repair themselves and tired minds let go of everything. You're almost there. Just a little further. Let go of these words now. They've done their work. They've carried you this far. Now they can dissolve into silence and you can continue on without them into the quiet depths of rest. Deep rest is waiting. Receive it. Good night. You made it through another day. That might not feel like much from where you're lying right now, but it is. It's everything. Another day of carrying weight that no one else can see. Another day of showing up when you didn't want to. Another day of being human in a world that asks so much of your humanity. The Stoics would be proud of you tonight, not because you achieved anything spectacular or visible or impressive, but because you endured, because you practiced the virtue they valued above almost all others: persistence, resilience, the quiet courage of continuing when continuing is hard and offers no guarantee of reward. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal almost every night, sometimes every morning too, reminding himself of what mattered, coaching himself through the difficulty of being alive. He ended many of his reflections with simple reminders, simple truths. Let me offer you some now, as you drift toward sleep. You are not alone in this. Humans have felt exactly what you feel for as long as there have been humans who could feel anything at all. Your exhaustion does not diminish your worth. You are enough exactly as you are. Tired and struggling and uncertain. Rest is not weakness. The Stoics themselves rested. Even emperors had to sleep. Even philosophers had to stop. This weight you carry will not be permanent. Everything changes. Everything passes, including this. Tomorrow will come. You'll meet it when it arrives with whatever strength a night of rest provides, with whatever resources you have available. And that will be enough, because it has to be, because that's what you have. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." May you wake to that privilege. May the weight feel even slightly lighter than it did today. May you remember, even in your exhaustion, that you are part of something vast and ancient and enduring. The long line of humans who have struggled and rested and risen again to struggle and rest once more. You're joining that company now, in the darkness, in the rest, in the surrender to sleep that connects you to every human who has ever lived and rested and risen. Good night. Sleep well. The Stoics are with you. I am with you. And tomorrow, whatever it holds, you will meet it. But that's tomorrow. For now, just rest. Just sleep. Just be. Good night.